or someone would ask me the other day, she's like, what are you going to do when you actually find someone really similar to you? Would you get along? I was like, gosh, no way.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. We've got a really special guest here today. His name is Oliver, and he's a Sydney-based entrepreneur who's doing bits and pieces all around. So, Ollie, would you like to just explain a bit about yourself?
Yeah, all right, just to get the audience a bit more aroused, I suppose.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I guess I've been self-employed for the past few years. I'm from Canada, originally from Vancouver, Canada, and I came over here about since I've been to Australia, probably about 8 years now. My first company that I started was a events-based company that did like a lot of sports events. So my first experience into business was a business-to-business sort of like platform. So selling to like big businesses, medium and big businesses generally. So we did a lot of sports events for companies to do sports events against other companies. And that's sort of how I fell into sort of the business world. And then once we wounded that business up, and then we started and built a sort of an affiliate type of website, selling like products, and then created a property management company. So I have a few different sort of my hands in a little bit of everything, and all of them profitable, all of them enough to sustain my lifestyle and for me to buy, green screen and things like that. But, it's just been an interesting journey. I've been like, when I first started, you're living off of 2-minute noodles. I was pretty much living like couch to couch at my buddy's place in Sydney, just saving up every dollar and things to build something. And so I understand like the struggle, and I see people all the time. And now I obviously advise a few startups and also entrepreneurs. I mentor a girl that runs a factory in Asia, and so yeah, it just keeps me kind of to understand sort of all these little things that's going on around the world, and you have to understand sort of like the industries and learn about as many industries as you possibly can.
So when you moved to Sydney, did you have the intention to start this event business, or did it just unfold that way?
No. So that's exactly what I did when I decided I was going to come back here. So I already had like basically like all the business pre-planned. So like, just the marketing collateral, and there's so many mistakes that I've made, and even and that's the thing in business. You're making something, you're failing, and then you're just trying to like keep on coming up with something and seeing what sticks. So I haven't even ran any events here when I first started. And my first client that I was able to sign was as a company called Groupon. And then I signed LinkedIn, and then Macquarie Bank, and then CBA, and et cetera, et cetera. So once you start getting one organization or business on board, it's so much easier. But like the fake it till you make it mantra is so true, man. You just gotta like just sell yourself in a way that you already have ran all these different wonderful events, and you sell the idea. And then all you have to do is just make sure that you deliver after you sell it.
Have you had any times when where either you A, haven't delivered, or B, were genuinely convinced you weren't going to deliver at all?
Oh man, it's so many times. So like, when you're running events and you're running like sports and you're trying to create like, so we were a almost like a triple bottom line sort of organization, where we were one parts social responsibilities, staff engagement, and work-life balance. So we wanted to kind of hit all those things. The company was called Office Athletes, and there's so many times where, man, if you're one company short, you don't know if there's going to be enough companies to be able to run a successful event. My thing was like, and also worrying about like injuries. We had someone injure themselves and break his hand. He was like a middle manager for one of these tech companies. Wow. And when he injured himself, it was incidental, and nothing that we could have done, but we had liabilities that we have to watch out for. When someone injures themselves, you have to then worry about not just the well-being of that participant, but the company's loss of productivity and everything that's affected, because it's a workplace sanctioned event. So we actually lost that client, and then I realized it's actually really, really hard to run in terms of like making sure that there's enough participants that aren't going to injure themselves, and also like making sure that you have the proper insurances and stuff. So at the end, we just wound it down and realized that, there's the business model was a bit needed to be worked out more than anything.
And is that when you moved to the next business, or was
Well,
this?
I was always working on a bunch of different things. So in between those events, I was actually in between those sort of the startup community. I was actually part of something called Generation Entrepreneurs, which is and I still mentor for them, which is a bunch of high school kids at the time that have created sort of the and Chris has actually been to some of my talks, as well as a part of the events. And it's just a bunch of high school kids that create these 48-hour hackathons for high school kids. And they were sort of the first to do it. The guy that started it, he used to intern for me for Office Athletes, and now he himself has built this like massive organization, nonprofit. It's running autonomously on itself. And this program is like super inspiring. They have gotten funding from City of Sydney. They've gotten funding from St. George's, UNSW. USID, all these different organizations have wanted to work with them, and they're just only growing, and they're reaching out to schools and building sort of these new programs that offer entrepreneurship. So I go in there as a sort of like a mentor to the entirety of the organization, as well as I go in there to sort of mentor the individual groups. And then their plan is to hopefully one day transition into sort of like an incubator type of event. But at the end of the day, when you look at these high school kids, one of the issues that is missing is they're too young. It's just not only do they lack experience, but sometimes if the drive is not there and they just don't really care enough, you could give as much guidance to someone as you possibly can. But at the end of the day, if they're not willing to just put in the hard work, it's still going to be for naught. And yeah, it's infinitely super rewarding. And through this program, I started looking at different sort of like products, and started helping one of my friends run a program that was sort of similar in terms of helping people create sort of physical products. So one of my mates, he actually created a product that he sold. It was like a sippy cup. And the sippy cups sort of special sauce was the fact that the lid could be turned upside down and used as like an open mouth cup that still holds in a bit of liquid. And it's just ingenious. This is a lid that you turn around. So even before he released the product, what he did was, it's super ingenious. He actually just hacked the whole process, the whole licensing deal. What he did was he took pictures of his son drinking from the cup, and he hot glued it together. It wasn't even working. He just had the concept, created a sell sheet. Then all he did was just started pushing it out to companies, cold calling companies. Yo, I have this product. Cool. His third company that I think he talked to, they were like, yeah, of course we're interested. Signed over the NDA, and then they're like, do you have the prototype? And then he's like, oh shit, it's time for me to move on to the next step. So instead of like a lot of people, and this is a great sort of teaching and learning point for a lot of people. It's not just if you could sort of resourcefully reverse engineer the process and get to the point where you don't actually have to spend all these resources, get marketing things, license and patent your product, and then shoot it out there. Just go out there and see what sticks. And then from then on, he just started developing as the process was going on. And he liked it enough that they were going to license its product. So he used to work for Osgrid. He's just doing his own thing now, doing consultancy work. But he essentially has signed, licensed this product to all the major big box stores, including Target, Walmart in America. So
Amazing.
so he did very good. And I'm not saying like this could happen this can pretty much happen to anyone. And all you need to do is the hard yarns of not just creating a product, but the product may or may not be good. You don't know that, but if you could get one person to buy it, that's why this licensing model worked for him. And licensing is not for everyone as well. There's a lot of pitfalls to licensing a product, such as if you license a product, if someone likes it, someone could actually purchase like a big company could purchase that product and then sit on its patent or redesign it themselves. And then that's it. You're kind of screwed with leaving them with IP. You just got to hope that. And this happens a lot in the business community where people just don't have the time. People are not going to have the time to copy your tech idea or your business idea. Your best bet, and I've spoken to like a few IP lawyers, and one of the things is IP lawyers always say, don't worry about protecting code and protecting your patents because it's going to be ripped off sooner or later. Your best bet is to spend the resources for protectionism to progress whatever it is that you needed, get into the hands of your audience, and just try to grow it as fast as you possibly can.
Man, it sounds like you have a hand in every single little honeypot I've ever heard of.
Yeah, so like I didn't intend to do that, and through sort of generation entrepreneurs, I've heard over 150, 200 something business pitches. So, and judging them as well. So like, just ripping business pitches apart, where, how are you going to take this to market? Who is your first user? How does this product even work? Have you done the right amount of research? What's the product market fit of this thing? Who are some of the members of your team? Like, these are all things that are like, these kids, and a lot of people don't really have that information for. So that's why I just feel super passionate about it when I talk about these things, because right now in the global economy, there is a economic sort of space race where everyone's trying to develop the next big unicorn, the next multi-billion-dollar valuated company.
Yeah, I've noticed that.
And then so everyone's stockpiling either brains or allowing for easier immigration. And I could see like just Australia in general going through like the whole immigration with Australia and having issues myself personally, and just seeing the program, and then just seeing how difficult it is. And that's the next phase. That's like the whole mining and resources discovery, but this now is in tech. And so that's why you look at like Israel, you look at Singapore. They're offering like really, really great tax concessions for corporations to go there, or even offering companies like seed funding and easy permanent residency and a pathway towards staying there, because like that's where the future of the world is. And you see like China is the one that's actually doing very, very well in terms of like their AI, machine learning development, because their lack of bureaucracy and the fact that they're run by like one government that don't have to worry about getting reelected. And a lot of the companies, a lot of the world's, businesses and countries are a bit worried for the right reasons.
Man, this world's changing pretty quick, isn't it? So how, if I was one of these young kids trying to give you an idea, and you've just grilled me, you just told me that my thing is absolute trash.
Yeah.
What advice would you give me to go back to the drawing board and to pick myself up? How would I improve a terrible idea and make it a better idea?
Well, the thing is, okay, so this is there's a few analogies I like to say, and like kind of thought experiments, right? So people will come up to me with like, oh, I have this great idea. I can't tell you, you got to sign this NDA before I give you any information. I'm like, okay, let me just wind it back. Let's just say you started a lemonade stand, right? Lemonade stands, low barriers of entry. Any 6-year-old can start a lemonade stand, right?
Yeah.
But imagine if someone on your team, like a Mark Zuckerberg or a Elon Musk or a VC was able to jump onto your team. Do you think other companies will not want to be a part of that? So it's a lemonade stand now, but it could be something else in the future. So more than anything, if I could determine that hey, a team is the team is really really well rounded, well suited, they build stuff, they're super not just passionate. There's a lot of passionate people. There's a lot of smart people, people that are willing to put in the dirty to get to where they need, the hustlers, the 4 a.m. club guys,
Yeah.
guys like yourselves, those are the guys that you could tell like, hey, they're going to make it regardless, because whether they're going to be innovating this product, or in the future they're going to be creating something else, or in the future they're going to be, the product is viscous. It could be this now, but it could be something else in the future. And the greater the team is, the more that you could believe that they're going to be able to take it to market. So if an idea that is done, I don't bash people on their ideas. I bash people on their sort of their hardworking, how willing and how easy it is that they're willing to do those things. Not necessarily on whether the idea is good or not, because an idea could be really stupid. Like, imagine renting out your car and picking up strangers. Imagine like letting strangers live in your house. Like 20 years ago, you'd be like, that's insane. That would never work. You're never going to do that. But if you have the right guys that are putting the right systems in place and are able to get enough of a marketing, get enough people on it, then it's fine. So it's never. So one of the things like I have, kids always ask like, hey, I just want to be wealthy. I'm like, okay, cool. You want to be wealthy? I think the easiest way right now, if you're in Australia, is wait till your parents die. Then you can inherit their property, or ask your parents to buy a bunch of property that you can invest in, because like you got to look at the risk to reward ratio for like a business compared to, say, like investment, like property. At the end of the day, with property, whether you make the right choice or not, you could at least offset the risk by putting in renters, right? And whether the prices fluctuate, whatever, you eventually should be able to come out if you hold it in long enough. But with the business, there's just so many variables. You got staff, you got product risk, you got market risk. And any time when your product is not ready for the market, or anytime when the market is not ready for your product, anytime when the people within your team don't have the right skill sets, or have the right drive, there's so many different things that could destroy and implode the business. And that's why, like, not just 50%. I think it's a lot higher now in terms of like business failure. So the best thing is to learn the most amount of things is for you to fail, learn how you failed, and just continuously try to do different things and new things. The things that, like, even looking at Chris's journey, I always give him a hard time, because like there's things that I tell him to do and he just like, okay, yeah, all right, and then he doesn't do shit. That's not an entrepreneur, man. That's more of a wantrepreneur. They just think it's like it's just the cool. Yeah, it's just like the cool thing right now, because everyone else is doing it, because all the kids are like, oh man, this 20-year-old something is making it for himself. I want to be that guy. I don't want to work for a boss. But at the same time, you got to understand that even if you're not building a sexy technology product and you're running a cafe, all the same principles are still the same. And if you could run a SaaS software, or if you could run, a news agency, it's the mentalities and the processes are all the same.
So essentially, because I would say that you've been a quite successful entrepreneur, and there's a lot of entrepreneurs out there. Just to steal your word, what do you do throughout the day that gives you the difference?
In terms of
what advice would you give, let's say, to me and Leroy, to be able to go from being a entrepreneur to being an actual entrepreneur?
Well, there's actually a lot of people aren't cut out to be entrepreneurs or business people. That's just the bottom line. So some people just don't have it in them, and the only way you could tell is not by celebrating the wins, is what are they doing in the meantime? How are they bettering themselves? What are they not just milestones they're trying to hit in terms of finances, but like how are they achieving those things and how are they working towards it? And this is the issue, because you have a lot of say the person that starts a restaurant is generally the chef of the business. So he has like, oh, cool, I'm going to start it because I have this family recipe that I want to create, but not unknowing to him, he has to worry about front of house. He has to worry about kitchen management. He has to worry about staffing issues all around. He's got to worry about marketing. He's got to worry about accounts. And then he's got all these hosts of different challenges, and he might not be it. A lot of chefs are sort of like creatives, right? So there's a different, there's three sort of archetypes that you need within the business, right? You need to have someone who's a designer or academic or creative, someone that could obviously, whether they're looking at sort of how to create a better sort of user experience or workflow, or just designing your branding and thinking about your branding that way. You need someone that is a manager, someone that is like able to hit goals and able to set them and able to just drive the entire team. And then you got the visionaries, someone that is willing to and have the capacity to be able to see and forecast what's going to be happening in the future, and then also planning accordingly. So if your team does not have any of these three people, you got to look for those members to fill out your team. I would never recommend you hiring for them if if you don't have those people in your team, one person or another. Obviously there's exceptions to every rule, right? You can't, I'm not saying that this is a hard and fast rule, but if you have, say, like only all three of you guys are developers, programmers, which is, like I said, part of the creative academia. All you're doing when times get tough is going back to what you're good at, which is programming, polishing a turd, not getting the product out there. And this happens a lot. That's why a lot of like Sequoia and some of these VC funds in America would not actually bring people on if they aren't proven as a business person or only have a background in coding and in tech.
So
you
if
mentioned
if you're in a team, sorry,
Yeah.
if you were in one of these teams and you noticed that there was, you were, let's say you were missing the visionary of that little trio.
Yeah.
Do you think that someone would be able to retrain themselves to be able to try and fit that role, or there's just a particular thing that you're either born with it and you're shaped into that role, or not?
Can you acquire it? Yeah, no, I think it's through experience. Like, I mean, someone that's like, so say a chef that starts a business, or a lawyer that starts up a law firm, or a dentist that starts up his practice. They're only good at that one thing, the core business. But there's all the other things that they're not good at, all the supporting bits of the business, and then growing it. That's why a lot of them don't have, like, that mindset to think about how to franchise it. And if you don't have the experience, you could leverage off mentors and people that do know it. Hopefully the guys that are on your team, you could leverage off of. And if you don't have any of those, you're just kind of blind leading the blind, and you eventually just will falter, or will not grow as fast, and you'll run out of resources. All businesses is like a game. As long as you have enough money to get you to the next day, to the next quarter, the next month, you still have skin in the game. And the minute you run out and you have to get a job, that's when it's game over. And that means that you either don't care about it enough, because if you cared about it enough, you would wake up, and that's what you would be sort of focusing on.
Earlier, you mentioned bettering yourself. So, like, one of our biggest goals for creating this podcast was for our own self-development, and we've now trying to push that out to like young adults, because we really want to promote the power of self-development. So what sort of tools and methods have you used in your own life to better yourself?
So I think the most important thing is like the power of just action, just getting something done. So if you're feeling demotivated, just the physical act of getting up and like making your bed and maybe cleaning your house, and then start building little things into your thing, into your sort of your work day. Because sometimes you'll lose motivation. You don't want to do it. Keeping each other accountable. So like, making sure you have an accountability friend or a coach or someone that'd be like, yo, hey, how's this this thing that you're doing? When will you be doing things, and by where and when will you be doing things? So like, if someone's saying like, hey, I'm gonna get this done, when? Maybe 2 months. Which day? Why do you need this time? And just start distilling it, and then just create small achievable goals to try to get to where you need to be.
In your opinion, because there's obviously I think there's a lot of debate as opposed to focusing on short-term goals as opposed to focusing on long-term goals. Do you favor towards the side?
Well, there's no point of focusing on long-term goals if you don't have short-term goals. So you can't have one without the other. So your short-term goals should be assessed and put in there in a way that you can achieve your longer-term goals. And at the end of the day, if it's like an industry that you're not like passionate about or you don't really care for, that's when I say, it's best that you probably, look at doing something else, because it's not whether you're goal setting or not. If it's not something that you're completely engulfed in and want to do, that's why you got like, I don't know, so I have a YouTube channel and I have I have a Twitch stream, and I get asked all the time like, hey, I just want to be a streamer, and that's my dream, is to be a streamer. But the thing is, a lot of people don't realize is all they care about is playing video games. But when I'm streaming, it's all about engaging and creating a community. That community could then leverage off of for anything in the future, whether it's partnership with like brands, whether it's leveraging yourself to build another platform for something else. It's important to build an audience. So whether and a lot of streamers, aren't really understanding and realizing that it's actually quite easy when people have a community on Twitch or on YouTube, that they're actually building a business product, but their product is themselves. How am I going to sell myself to? Sorry guys, I just got a raid through my stream. Hey, thanks, yo. Sorry, shout out to JJ and stuff. So a raid is when someone comes from another stream when they end their stream, and then you get like a bunch of viewers that are coming in. So I'm on the 4 a.m. Podcast. I don't know what your guys' link is. Is it just your Instagram?
Yeah, so the 4 a.m. Club podcast.
The 4 a.m. Club podcast, guys. These guys are very, very in the entrepreneurial sort of spirit and are trying to learn a little bit more. And they reached out to try to get me on there. I appreciate the raid, guys. Sorry, guys. Yeah, go ahead.
That's all right. So your hobby of yours is building these maps in a gaming community, and I'm really not much of a gamer. What does it involve in terms of making something that people love to play?
Oh, that's a great question, because the people that just rated us are all Fortnite map makers. Yeah. So that's actually a great question. I'll post that chat if you could give us your take on that. But I think like anything else, whether you're creating a map, you're creating a product, you're creating a business, it's something that you just feel like you're really a passionate. It's like a passion project. You just have to do it. So creating a map is not about like vanity. Sometimes it's a creative outlet, where you could like have like an idea of something. There's some like really wild and crazy sort of like ideas and things that people have. And for me, like I said, I had no aspirations to be a map maker. I have no aspirations to even be a streamer. I was more of just someone that was like, hey, I'm playing this game casually. And how I started was I made one map because there was other maps that wasn't good enough. And so then people were like, why don't you get a YouTube channel? I'm like, I only have Instagram. So you just follow my Instagram. And I realized like kids don't have Instagram because you have to be 13. And most of my audience is under that. So then then I was like, okay, cool. I'll get a YouTube channel now. Okay, excellent. Now what? And then they're like, why don't you start streaming? I'm like, okay, fine. I'll start streaming. And then we started building up a little bit of an audience over YouTube, and then we just transitioned them onto Twitch. So to answer your question shortly, it means a lot of things to different people when people create things. It doesn't have to be a map. It could be like a beautiful cake. It could be the next electric vehicle. It could be the next app that will cure cancer or whatever. They do it because they see some sort of a gap in the market, and they enjoy the sort of the creative outlet of it all.
When do you have your best ideas? Because I know for me, like I love getting out and run, because that's all I have to concentrate on is whatever's flowing through my mind and the, you know, the footpath in front of me.
Yeah.
I seem to have all these crazy, wacky ideas when I'm the most tired. Do you have anything that's similar for you?
You're talking about map creation or business idea building, or what are you like? Ideas come and go. Ideas are a dime a dozen. It's execution of that idea. So if I were to relate it to sort of the Fortnite community, creating maps is like uh, so the people that are creating maps that are really, really great, i.e. maps that haven't been done before, like whether it's a business, it's sort of like, I always use the analogy of uh, a pain. Are you a painkiller or are you a vitamin? Vitamins will make your life a little bit better, but won't improve it a lot. Painkillers are something that, hey, if this map or if this product was removed from the market, your life would not be how it is, and you would not be, you would be very, very sort of disappointed in. And that's the kind of products that you want to create, whether it's in the map community, map making community, or whether it's like you're creating a product. So an example of something could be like, I don't know, cars. If there's no one made cars anymore and cars were eliminated from the face of the earth and everyone had to walk or ride a horse again, some parts might be cool, but you know, you'd be bummed out. You'd be like, man, I gotta go to Steve's house, but now it's gonna take me like, you know, 2 hours to walk there to 15-minute drive or whatever, right? So like, you know, those are painkillers. So in a business, when you look at something, the closer you are at that could impact people's life, because it is such a big deal to them, the better off you will. That means that the people that will prescribe to your product or service will be more ingrained, will be more hooked, because it's basically solving their biggest pain point. So when you look at a product, it's like, okay, cool. You say e-commerce. There's millions of e-commerce sites, right? Why is yours going to be different? Is it going to be better shipping? Is it going to have better quality? Is it going to have better cut, better styles? Do you have better influencers pushing your products out? Like, where's your point of difference? And that's, you know, that's, I guess, the toughest part, whether you're creating a map or doing a map is essentially a game mode. So people will then take ideas from other game modes and then put it in the Fortnite sort of community space. So there's maps that are like, so I made like if you've ever played Grand Theft Auto, there's this mode that was Juggernaut, it's called, where like you have two teams trying to kill each other's Juggernaut, and the Juggernaut has a minigun, and they're trying to kill each other, and you have a team that's trying to protect them. Juggernaut's really slow. So I had the same idea for Fortnite, because I wanted to actually play this game on stream, because I realized that no one has made a game like this. I went to try to create it. So I created a game called Protect the President, which is essentially you fight in front of the White House. I created like a model sort of White House in the front, an Oval Office, and then you have two Juggernauts that are trying to kill each other. And the game is like based on like more team play than anything. So on the surface level, if you play it with two players, the game's not playable. But if you play it with like a big team, which was usually what we have usually on our stream, then the game becomes way more dynamic, because then you have to either push the location like you do in a football game, or protect your location, protect the person that you're doing. So that's just an example of one of the maps that I made, and that the idea that I had the idea that was sort of repurposed from something else. And that's the thing. You don't, a lot of in the community as well, a lot of people cite like, oh, hey, this person stole my idea. And you know, if your idea was so great and it was so indefensible, people would not be able to take your idea so easily, because you would have spent enough time to sort of like create the aesthetics or create the mechanics that were too complex for people to follow along.
So for I guess your listeners and our listeners too, if they've got this burning idea that they think is this new creative thing that people couldn't live without,
Yeah.
what's the first step that you would recommend them to take to get the ball rolling, to take it from idea to start executing it?
So just as little resources as you possibly have. So if you could, so it's just my property management company, for instance, right? I didn't have any sort of property management experience. I saw that there's a gap in the market at the time. And I just went around to like different classifieds and be like, hey, we're this company that's established. And do you want our products inserted? We didn't know how much we were going to charge. We didn't know anything. We didn't have anything. But I already have that experience from my office athletes business, right? If you could sell to an actual business itself, the process to selling to consumers is way easier. It's way easier. And selling to kids on Fortnite, even peanuts, guys, peanuts. No, I'm kidding. But you know, selling to businesses, you have so much like compliancy. Even when we were working with Macquarie Bank, you know, they were like, well, why are we going to go with you? What sort of insurances do you have? They're asking for everything because big companies have to protect their shareholders. So they have to make sure that everything that they put in place, every program that they're getting forth is something that will benefit the entire organization without causing any sort of risks. So risk assessment. And so selling to a business infinitely harder. So if you can succeed in like B2B, B2C is a cakewalk. So when I started doing that and afterwards selling to consumers, they just say yes or no. It's not like, oh, we have to okay it from HR and then we got to get a C-suite person to say it's yay or nay. And then that becomes sort of like this whole gatekeepers and trying to break them down, follow up, and then this is how it works. Endless coffee meetings to try to get it off the ground. B2C is way easier in terms of that. You can make money on both, but it really depends on your product offering.
So how has COVID impacted your property business? Because
Oh yeah, very horribly. Not only is most of the time, like now that I'm at home, this is why this is a really good outlet for me in terms of like, streaming and building out a community. There's not much I could do for business development because like our business runs on short-term and long-term rentals with a focus on short-term business. If there's no there's no properties that are being put on the market, we can't find tenants for them because people aren't traveling. It's horrible. We've lost like 80% of our business actually. It's been a nightmare. Yeah. And the pitfalls of like running a business, there's so much risk and I can't say that enough. I've had managers and contractors that we've worked with try to steal our rental pool from under us because we're operating in Brisbane, Melbourne, and Sydney. So like, how do you operate in 3 different locations without being there? And so you got to make sure your processes and your T's and C's are right up there. But even then, people sign these contracts and then they just go behind your back and try to like, and we could easily go after these guys. But at the same time, like, are we going to spend our time on protecting our bottom line, or should we go and just like go ahead and just try to find clients? So yeah, I've seen it all, man. I've seen partnerships not working. I've seen, and this happens all over the place, whether it's like, in the Fortnite community or in the business community where some people will have, you have 2 people like work with each other based on a handshake and they're friends and not have distinguishable metrics or milestones that needs to be achieved. One person gets mad, steps away. One person does more of the work. And it's a nightmare afterwards when like you have to pick up the pieces, or if you're a serious business trying to get investors on board, they'll look at it and be like, what's going on with this business? Why is there so much turmoil? There's no way that I'm going to be able to, work with these guys.
So I can imagine as a
sorry,
as an entrepreneur,
guys.
as an entrepreneur, I'm sure you've come across like a lot of failure. And like resilience is such an important characteristic. So what things have you done when you've like say failed? Like how have you bounced back?
That's a great question. I mean, you got to make sure you have a lot of stuff going for you, not just in terms of like finances, but like just make sure that you are someone that is always learning and building yourself up, whether it's like, physically, mentally, and just take that as an experience, whether it's like a relationship, right? If you fail in it, you could either like learn from it, or you could just repeat the same mistakes and just hang your head all day. And it's no different. I mean, I kind of always had that mentality where I'm like sort of headstrong. I'm very analytical, and sort of like just understanding. So I look at all the different parts. Why did I fail? How did I fail? What can I have done differently? Yeah, I've made my share of mistakes. There's tons of things I could have done differently. But making sure that you kind of learn as fast as you possibly can and just keep on going, then yeah, we've all had like failures in various things, and like you could take that and use it as a crutch for forever. Use that as like as a thing that like, hey, you know, maybe even this business that I'm running right now might not be the one that will make me the most successful. You know, you just never know with these things. But I also do believe in like just like the focus. What you focus on grows. So if like Chris, for example, has, you know, a memes t-shirt company, a boxing label, and then like a video production company, and he has no track record of making anything successful, that's a red flag for me.
Okay. Well, sorry about this one, Chris. It's going to hurt a little bit.
Go to hell, Chris Santowski. You overachiever.
In terms of, you said learning from your mistakes, I know that one thing I think not many people do is actually write down, you know, for example, like journal, even just keep track of things they've stuffed up to try and actually reflect and absorb what happened. Is there anything that you do in particular to make sure you actually learn the lessons from when things go wrong?
Yeah, I mean, some people have like, you need some sort of visual aid. I think I write like, you know, obviously I have like daily tasks that I fill in, and I just try to achieve those things. And if things don't go, I just look back and be like, oh, this is not. Yeah, very important to have something tangible. I would recommend you write something down. That way you have it always physically. It almost becomes sort of a beacon, if you will. If you're going to somewhere and you have this like pocketbook or something, you know it's time to work because you're holding on to it, and these tasks needs to be achieved, as opposed to your computer, where your computer has like access to, you know, multimedia and all this type of smut and things to get you distracted, to keep you distracted. So easiest things to have something like kind of as a visual aid, a booklet of some sort, and then just write stuff on there. It doesn't necessarily mean to, you know, obviously goal setting and stuff is important and writing those things down, but more importantly, more powerful is accountability from people. So holding people to account, as opposed to like writing something down and then hoping that you could achieve these things. If you have something written and then you get your friends to read it and then you tell them, this is what I need to do, hell or high water. One of the things that Google likes to do is something called moonshots. So they don't have any sort of like low, easy, achievable benchmarks. They have moonshots, which is a term used for sort of in the space industry, where the act of the space shot is so hard and complicated to achieve that if you try to aim for it, don't achieve it, and get halfway there, you're further ahead than if you didn't. So goals that are not just easily attainable, but also will push you. Even if you do fail at those goals, at least you've gotten further. So say if I had to make 10 phone calls and then I was like, hey, I only made 5, and I was able, in those 5, I was able to get those people to have an expression of interest. Those things would be where and a bit of success is able to inspire as well as push you to create more things. So that's why it's so important for easy wins. So when, like Chris, when he was starting his business, the first thing that I said to him was, and that he could be a good case study, is like, your lowest hanging fruit. Where's your lowest hanging fruit? Where's the easiest point, where least path of resistance? And for Chris, it was trying to get him to use his audience, because he has an audience that's engaged before he even did anything else. But he, like any young buck person, ran ads. And when I heard that, I was like, man, this guy. Well, you know, as a learning experience, fine, I get it. But like, if he's listening, if he's trying to, like, you know, impart and gain some sort of like experience, the first thing that he should do is, so what it shows to me is that he doesn't care about his product enough. First thing that I told him is, make sure you create some sort of, you know, and I know he has this like weird Instagram phobia thing, where it's sort of like, you know, he doesn't want to be that person that is like, you know, disingenuous, and, you know, he's wrestling with that, and I get it, and his whole personal sort of issues that has happened. But if he was actually really serious in sort of creating that memes to label product, the first step that he could have done is to access his audience. So where is it that is like the least path of resistance? The first thing that I did, because I was running a short-term rental business, was go on Airbnb. I just spammed everyone, and I got IP banned from all the different accounts. I had to go to a library and open up accounts to just do that.
Hustle.
And then just getting banned, because that's my lowest hanging fruit. You know, these are the people that are on there right now. They're hosts. How can I help these people out? So understanding that this is like, it doesn't matter. You can't have pride. You can't feel shame. You got to do shameless things that you're not proud of, if you really believe in what you're doing. And this is the problem with a lot of creatives, is they're like, oh yeah, I'm not comfortable with doing that, or I just want to continue making this, and I don't want to, you know, stir the pot, and I don't want to, like, if you're not uncomfortable, you're not growing. If you're not at the gym and you're pushing heavy weights and you're lifting a 1 kilo, 1 pound dumbbell, you're not going to get stronger. You're not going to feel strain, and you're not going to have your muscles develop. If you're reading, I don't know, 50 Shades of Grey every day, you're not going to learn a little bit anything more and introspect a little bit more. So it's the same thing with, like, you know, and I know it's uncomfortable, Chris. He doesn't want to do it because he's, I don't know, has this pride and whatever. But like, you got to throw that stuff all away. Whether if you're growing, if you're trying to build something that you truly believe in.
Yeah, I think that was something that me and Leroy came across, you know, quite early in terms of the podcast journey anyway. You know, where we're putting our face out there with all of our opinions and ideas. And man, I tell you what, that's such an uncomfortable thing for me to do. And it's like, starting out terrified me. I was like, what are people going to think? What are they going to do? Are people going to treat me differently? And in the end, it hasn't made a difference whatsoever. And there was just this stigma in the beginning of, people are going to think about me differently. People are going to think that I'm, you know, this person trying to stick my head out, and I don't know. I don't know how
That's
they would think about me.
self-perpetuated. That's your self-perpetuation. It's the reason why people are horrible at doing talks in front of public speeches. It's because they internalize themselves in that step, and they're fearful of things that they have no control over. And as long as you're prepared, you shouldn't have any issues. I mean, that's the whole cliche notion of fear killed more dreams than failure ever did. The fact that your inability to act.
How would you coach Chris to be able to bridge this barrier between what he thinks might happen?
You know, that's the thing. So I used to teach basketball. I used to coach basketball. Now I coach like more business type stuff, but the parallels are exactly the same. You can't coach men if they're not receptive of listening, or they're like, you know, they don't see the value, or if they're not willing to act. You can't. You can only do so much for people if they're not
Provide them enough
wanting.
tools.
Yeah, exactly. If they're not willing to, and this is it. Like, I mean, if you ever have a kid, I don't, but I would imagine, if you ever have like a kid or a son, you would try to, like, your best bet to parenting is not to get your kids to not do things. It's to guide them to make the right decisions that is right for them at the time. And then learn from the pitfalls that they make. Just like if someone hasn't drank before or smoked, you can't be like, you can't drink or smoke because it's bad for you. You got to be like, you have to do it. You have to feel the shortfalls and the ebbs and flows of, like, life itself. You got to be able to experience it. If you don't have that experience, you can't do anything. You know, like, I can't tell a guy like Chris to do this or do that. I could advise him, but you know, if he's not taking my you're beating a dead horse, and that's something that I've seen so many times. People that want it but aren't going to put themselves up there for, and just either, you know, will find some sort of reasons. They always have excuses of things why they haven't done things.
Yeah, I was actually watching a Joe Rogan podcast the other day, and on the ego, Mike Tyson talking about his ego. And I've been looking into my own ego, and I'm aware maybe the reason that people are so hesitant, like for us, like not wanting to follow our friends and open up our podcast to our network was because of our ego. We were afraid of what, people would think of us, or like how it would impact our image. How do you deal with your ego? Like, are you aware of your ego, or?
Yeah, for sure. I think anyone that has some sort of failure and could talk about it openly is would be introspective enough. So for me personally, speaking of that, on my Instagram, there's no mention of Fortnite at all. That's a completely separate community, and the only things that you can see is in my comment section. They're gonna be like, "Where are you streaming, man? I love your maps," or some shit like that. But it has nothing. There's no Fortnite stuff, but it's just for me, it's not an ego per se. I think I just want to separate like the personalities. I have another community like Discord where all these kids go and we chat and we converse. So for you guys, I think it's one of those things that you're inexperienced. So if this podcast was not the 4 a.m. club and you have to start up the 5 a.m. club or whatever, you're going to know what it feels like to get guests on board. You're going to know what it feels like to the time manage, to put it out there, to try to promote it. It's no different than anything else. And so I think with Chris or with a lot of entrepreneurs as well, and I see this, is something called founder depression. And this happens because when anyone is talking to you about stuff and they don't have that ego is in play, or they're not comfortable with divulging information, they're always going to tell you things are good. Why? Because in business, whether you're talking to everyone that could potentially be a consumer, you have to say things are good. You got to be like, yeah, we're kicking goals, we're doing well, we're surviving. It takes a lot more for someone to admit fault, and it's also their pride as well. Someone that is now their identity as entrepreneurs. Their identity is their work, because they're trying to create something that is like, first off, people wouldn't normally do it because it's just the journey and the pitfalls that are out there. But also secondly, it's something that you have too many people coming in your ear and saying, "Hey, man, why don't you get a job? I don't know why you're spending all this time running this thing. There's no end to it." And so and when you fail, they're going to be like, well, you failed at this. You're a loser. They'll never say you're a loser. People that are close to you, that understand, the entrepreneurs that will understand that journey and that process, and they'll never call you guys losers. The real losers are the people that have ideas that will never push it out, or will never try things, or are not adaptive. So like I think that's the main thing, being adaptive and just being understanding how you're easily or not easily influenced. I think that's sort of some of the hallmarks of how you need to conduct yourself on like a daily basis.
Man, well, I'll tell you what, we've had a lot of pretty key takeaways from today, and I found it. I like listening to your talk because I think that me and Leroy we're quite young on this journey, and we have a lot to learn, and we love learning. And it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the show, and we'd love to try and catch up with you again some point in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Always happy to give back to younger generations. Yeah, you so young bucks.
So where could people find you?
Instagram.
Instagram.
What if they want to find your maps?
My maps don't exist to your audience. Yeah, because they're not the age of people that want to play it. They're not 10 and under.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I'm on Twitch and I have a YouTube channel, but that's not like related to any of the stuff that we talk about. The kids in our chat right now, they're like, what the hell is this what are they even talking about?
It's one of those random Twitch things you like come and sit on and like There's these three blokes talking about self-development, and they came in to see
Yeah,
maps.
there's actually, you guys should definitely open up a Twitch stream as well. I think it's just like another way when you're running these things, people could discover you. Just a way to discoverability, and then you could actually just repurpose this into Spotify and YouTube or whatever, and just put it across as many places as you possibly can.
Well, even if you're not 10 yet, you're never too young to start a business.
Yeah,
Get
yeah,
into
that's
it.
right.
Start
Yeah,
now. Get your
100%.
parents to start, funneling a little bit of money into an investment property. Trust me,
Yeah,
you'll thank us.
exactly.
You'll thank us in about 10 years time.
Yeah. Like just when I see like just kids hustling, whether it's so when people come into my stream, kids are always self-promoting and stuff. I allow that shit because I respect the hustle.
Respect the hustle.
Yeah.
That's
I
it.
respect the hustle. They're coming in here, their kids are like, hey, they're not doing it correctly. That's not the best way to connect with people. But I respect it. They're young, so they should learn from it. And in the future, they'll learn from their mistakes.
Well, we'll hustle at the same time. Give us a follow. Check out
Make
check
sure you
out
guys
our
check out the 4
episodes.
a.m. Yeah, make sure you guys check out the 4 a.m. Club. You guys are just on the 4 a.m. Club, right? You guys are also on Spotify. I think
Yeah,
yeah.
so
mentioned.
our
We're gonna have some
Instagram
people-
handle is the 4 a.m. Club
The
podcast.
4A podcast. Okay, let me just go and type that in. If I have
And then
it.
on Spotify, you can find us just as a 4 a.m. Club. Big green T4C.
Okay, big 4T4C. You said.
Yeah, I like
Okay,
that.
excellent.
All right.
Well, I appreciate you guys. Well, I'll
thank
see you
you.
guys around, man. I'm
Yeah,
sure
sounds good.
our paths will cross in the future.